It's been a long day, so I'll try to keep this, if not short, at least mildly interesting. I don't know what possessed these guys to invite me to come and speak. Usually nak penutup program besar ni dia panggil menteri, tapi hari ni dia panggil ciku aja untuk bercakap in front of you all. So I'll try and make it interesting because I don't have the star power of ministers and what have you. But thanks for staying back, and I'll try to keep this as engaging as possible. We've listened to opening remarks. You've all sat through various clusters discussing various topics, from sex education, which appears to be the most popular one, to media freedoms, to refugee crises, to what else? Interfaith relations. And as we are about to find out, NALS is going to be recognized by the Malaysian Book of Records. So on behalf of Biro Pelajar Luar Negara UMNO Malaysia, I think this has been the most successful sixth installation of NALS 2018. Tahniah kepada semua. Now, of course, I'm sorry to burst your bubble and just tell everyone what the award is, but my understanding is the award from the Malaysian Book of Records will be about the number of speakers, and no wonder we've seen how many clusters there were and how many speakers were in each cluster. So I think that this program, or this forum, this summit, has the record now for the most number of speakers in a youth event. But what makes me personally most excited, apa yang saya bangga ataupun teruja, it's not so much obviously the speakers, but more about the faces I see in front of me. Daripada pagi sampai petang, now we still have over 3,000 students from public and private higher education institutions. And I think I've seen the list. Kita ada pelajar-pelajar dari pelbagai universiti, dari UiTM. Mana UiTM? Sorak sikit. Dari UIA. Lemah di UIA. We've got UPM. Ada UPM? We've got Okay. Alright. I got you. We've got UL. Okay lah, sikit lagi USM. Kalau I want to sebut one by one tak habis sampai maghrib kita. We've also got, siapa nak saya sebut? Siapa? Uniza. Okay. Terima kasih kawan-kawan kita dari Uniza. Itu baru IPTA ya, ada lagi ramai IPTS semua sorak. Siapa yang kau tip sekali jalan. Now, to all of you, saya sampaikan salam daripada dua pemimpin, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Rizal American Naina American dan Yang Berhormat Khairi Jamaluddin. They're very sorry they can't be here today, but I'm sure they're both extremely proud of your participation in what NALS has achieved this year. Jadi saya sampaikan salam dengan ucapan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now, on a personal note, events like this always bring back fond memories for me. I was once a part of the United Kingdom and Higher Council for Malaysian Students, UKEC. UKEC ni bagi mereka yang tak tahu, dia seolah-olah ataupun serupa Majlis Perwakilan Pelajar lah untuk pelajar-pelajar Malaysia di UK yang bukan Kelab UMNO, yang berkecuali ataupun dilihat berkecuali. Penting juga kita ada satu track yang different from Kelab UMNO. So I was part of UKEC and I directed the first Malaysian Student Leaders Summit in 2007. So, tak tepuk. So, just sharing how this is always personal to me, because at that time it felt like a great achievement. We had corporate bigwigs, we had politicals, we had ministers, we had prime ministers, we had foreign ambassadors. It felt like a great achievement. Tetapi as I stand here today, I stand here humbled by the evidence that even as UKEC paved the way for forums like this, but NALS has clearly surpassed all its competitors as a premier gathering point for Malaysian students. Syabas pada Kelab UMNO, pada Cik Din, and to, of course, Datuk Seri Rizal, on behalf of whom I am most privileged to speak here. It might be hard for you to believe it now with the multitude of student forums, student events on offer. Tapi 10 tahun dulu, tak macam ni. Just to share with you. 10 tahun dulu, it was almost unheard of to have open dialogue, open big student summits macam ni. the culture of open dialogue on all topics about good governance, about politics, was seen to be taboo or off limits. So it was made to feel, students were made to feel that critical thinking was almost jettisoned to be limited within the classroom or academic or assessment bubbles. Tetapi that was obviously never sustainable. It was not sustainable. Because at that time, our coup was still in full force. We were still in the groove of producing graduates, first and foremostly for the capitalist enterprise, untuk dapat kerja. Critical thinking ni was not seen as something that should be focused on or harnessed outside the classroom. It was the style of the 80s and the 90s. Big Brother knew best. The establishment knew best. You just study, you get a job, you leave the Datuk and Datuk Sris to decide the big questions of the country. But like I said, that's not the way it is today. As Malaysian students got more and more exposed, more and more educated, they had things to say, and they had things they believed in that weren't just about their degrees, weren't just about engineering, weren't just about economics in the classroom in a textbook sense, weren't just about accounting. They had things to say about democracy. They had things to say about human rights. They had things to say about the fiscal deficit. They had things to say about interest policies, monetary policies. They had things to say about FDI, technology transfers, things outside the classroom and things outside their degrees. And as I stand here today at age 32, even though I still look 35, 10 years after I graduated, now a member of the establishment myself, some part of me wishes, as I look at you today, to swap places. Some part of me still wishes that I could be where you are today, when everything was still up for grabs. Apa maksud saya everything was still up for grabs? When you are at the age when whatever line there was for me at this age of yours, 21, 22, 20s, whatever line there was not a party line, but whatever my intellect and my quiet reflection would allow me to believe. When being naive, ataupun kononnya naive, about realities of the world was not seen as a weakness, but was seen as an asset, a strength of what's possible. And that's the idealism that I want to speak to you about in this closing speech. Because for the few short years that you are university students, that idealism, that has got to be your biggest asset and your contribution to this country. We have achieved so much as a country, not just through sheer dogged determination, or clever diplomacy, or smart economic management, important as these things are, but we've originated this development. Development ni semua terjadi disebabkan idealisme successive Malaysian generations. Look at history, kita imbau sejarah. It was idealism that allowed Malays of different origins to cast aside their differences and join in one party, UMNO, to reject the Malaysian Union. It was an even greater idealism which facilitated would-be Malaysians of different races, different religions, to come together, seek out and win independence. It was an even greater idealism to get Sabah and Sarawak into the fold to form an even greater federation that lasts until today under one king, under one flag, one constitution. And as we sit here today, dengan MRT, HSR, all manner of physical infrastructure, it stands to reason that our graduation kita daripada sebuah negara pertanian, an agrarian economy, where the majority population was impoverished. Majority rakyat Malaysia pada waktu asal negara kita ni miskin tegar. Our graduation or transition from that to a diversified economy on the cusp of developed nation status, it didn't come about by accident. It didn't come about by luck. Dia tak berlaku begitu saja. But it came about through the ideal that Malaysia's destiny should not be one of ordinary achievements, middling, moderate achievements, but Malaysia's destiny ought to be one of greatness surpassing its size. Dan saya ulang semula, Malaysia's destiny ought to be one of greatness surpassing its size. But that's the idea, it doesn't mean it's a reality yet. And that's why in the great expanse of time, idealism, especially of young people, must remain the driving force of our history and our story moving forward. Our Prime Minister has set out a grand vision of Transformasi Nasional 2050 or TN50. A grand vision with one major KPI in mind, one goal in mind, to build a top 20 country, a Premier League country, a country that's not just on the map, but rules the map. A country that's not just on the map, but we need to rule the map. What do I mean by rule the map? Bukan through imperial strength, that's never been our thing. But in terms of leadership. Leadership in innovation, in technology, in education, in our global products and services where people around the world know Malaysia, in being maybe a model Malaysian, model Muslim majority nation, leadership in ASEAN. That's the N50. That's the kind of leadership that we aspire to. But once again, it will be the idealism of young people like you who are not chained to convention, to the way things are just because they are. Those of you who are too young still to have developed behavioral habits that simply mimic the past when that's anathema to a fast-changing, rapidly changing world. It will be your idealism backed up by your words, by your actions, that determine if we get one step closer to that Malaysian ideal of greatness surpassing our size. And so, in this current quest of being a Premier League country, a top 20 country, we won't be starting from zero, alhamdulillah. This government and its people have many achievements to be proud of. In innovation, we lead the world in solar panel production. In Islamic finance, we lead the world in sukuk issuance. With increasingly sophisticated instruments that are the envy of the Middle East, these are just a couple of examples where we are already tentatively leading the world in key areas. But we need to do more, and we need to do them quick. We need to cement our position as leaders in certain economic activities. In the job market, we need fresh ideas, and I know we've discussed this earlier, on how we react with the right skill sets to the threat of automation potentially displacing jobs. Even though many of you, I think, in this generation will be okay, but what about the generation below us? Which relates obviously to education, where I know some companies are introducing robotics in the classroom, revolutionizing the schooling experience to better relate to the realities of tomorrow. So time is not on our side, but if we sit still, if we don't continuously innovate, to be proactive, you can be sure we will be surpassed by the Indonesias, the Myanmars, the Vietnams of the world, the way they have overtaken us as a low-cost economy. And most painfully for me, kalau kita tak proactive, if we don't do the bold changes, if your idealism does not come through, most painfully for me, we will not beat Singapore in being a high-income, high-tech, highly efficient economy the world speaks of in glowing terms. I don't want to lose another grab to Singapore. I don't want to lose our best talents to Australia and the UK. In 2050, I want the best Australians to come to Malaysia to work here. That's the ideal of Malaysia that I want. So in short, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing well on some things and we have a lot of work to do in other areas, and that's okay, itu biasa. As one of my fellow panelists spoke earlier, yang paling penting kita kena akui bila kita ada cabaran. Don't be in a state of denial. So the state of truth is we're doing great on some things, we're doing okay on others, and in some others we're still lacking and lagging behind. We are a work in progress. Yang paling penting is that hunger. The hunger that comes from young people like yourselves to shake things up for the better, and I'm asking that of you as young people. On that score, let me elaborate lastly on just one area where I think we are lacking. One area where we have a lot more work to do. Something that doesn't have to do with hard economics or hard numbers or business, something a bit more intangible. something softer, but something equally profound, without which we will be meeting all these great challenges I mapped out with our hands tied behind our back. And that's got to do with national identity. Identiti nasional kita, jati diri nasional kita. What is it to be Malaysian? What is it to be Malaysian? What binds us to this land together, regardless of race and religion? We are most proud, kita bangga, rightly so, with kepelbagaian kita, our diversity. But that diversity must be harnessed to be an asset. It doesn't become an asset on its own, not a weakness. We need to learn to truly respect, appreciate, celebrate our differences, something our Prime Minister has been saying for many years. But as many things, as I've hinted, I think this is one example of an ideal yang kita belum capai. Kita tak sampai lagi. Some of us still look at each other with suspicion because of the way we look. Some of us allow stereotypes and prejudices to get in the way of a genuinely profound unity where everyone is invested in seeing this venture called Malaysia succeed. Kita masih ada perasaan sangsi sesama sendiri. We celebrate or we talk very proudly, kita ada banyak races, banyak religion. Kalau kita fly in from mana-mana luar negara, naik MAS, bila sampai KLIA tu, antara video yang MAS akan letak, ada lagu lah tourism Malaysia tentang many races, many religions. That's our master narrative. That's what we tell the world. Tetapi kita tanya diri kita sendiri, how many friends do you have that are not of your race? I'm talking about real friends. How many times when you go to mamak stalls do you sit together with different races? Mungkin dekat university is a bit easier because you are in study groups or what have you. Tetapi di luar, and maybe you might feel differently, but you yourself I think would see in other aspects of society, this unity is still something that appears to escape us. So allow me to say something mildly controversial. I know I've said a few things that's a bit controversial as an UMNO guy, but I'm going to take some risks. This is what I'm going to say. Simply coexisting without civil war is not enough. Maknanya, semata-mata kita hidup aman, damai, harmoni walaupun kita bersyukur, tidak cukup untuk mencapai idealisme ataupun ideal Malaysia yang saya sebutkan. It's my firm belief that we need to embark on a grand project of developing a common baseline of values and aspirations. Common baseline of values and aspirations. Maknanya kita kena wujudkan satu kesamaan dalam segi nilai kita, dari segi apa aspirasi kita sebagai rakyat Malaysia. Even if we pray different, even if we look different, even if we speak different. What are those values? Apakah nilai-nilai tersebut yang mungkin boleh membina identiti ataupun jati diri nasional yang saya sebut itu? I can't more tell you than you can tell me, because I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. Is it compassion? Is it a firm commitment to equitability, yang mana kita menentang ketidakseimbangan ekonomi? Mungkin itu identiti yang nak kita bina. Is it respect and appreciation of our heritage, bukan hanya warisan Melayu tapi warisan kaum-kaum lain? Is it an undying desire to be a model, moderate Muslim country where we don't give in to any extremism by any side? I don't know. I mention all these examples because kebetulan that's what I want it to be. But it's not up to me. Bukan saya yang menentukan, bukan hanya satu individu yang menentukan apakah mungkin jati diri negara yang saya gambarkan itu. It's up to all of us. It'll be you. Your generation, generation TN50, generation 20-an, generasi yang belasan tahun, generasi anda lah yang akan menentukan kalau boleh kita selesaikan masalah ini once and for all. What exactly is it to be Malaysian beyond just being different? You need to stand up to this challenge, to a great number of other challenges, and say that this is finally what it means to be generation TN50, what it means to be Malaysia in TN50, and you will need to be bold and brave enough to make the sacrifices that will be necessary. I use the word sacrifice deliberately because idealism, which has been the theme of my speech, It's not easy. Idealism ni kadang-kadang dalam masyarakat Malaysia ni, idealism gets a bad rap. Dia seolah-olah idealism ni perkara yang tak baik. Seolah-olah idealism, it implies a lack of maturity. I'm here to tell you, no. Jangan sekali-kali percaya bahawa idealism itu adalah perkara negatif. True idealism equals courage, equals sacrifice, and requires great political skill. Not just to be a politician, tapi even if you're not a politician, it requires skill to maintain your idealism. The courage to stand up for what you believe in, so that's why it's courageous. The sacrifice of what is easy for what is necessary. It's easy to want to fit in. It's easy to be accepted, to adopt conventional thinking and behaviors. But it's much harder to exhibit the skill to navigate, to survive, to thrive in an environment while retaining your freshness. Believe me, whatever line of work you end up in, a corporate gig, a political position, you need to play the game, but play the game without losing your idealism and that pinch of radicalism, the desire to disrupt, because that will be the best value you bring to the table. Tepuklah aku sikit saya. No, but serious guys, yeah? That bit really reflect on it. You need to play the game, but make sure you never lose who you are. And so I tell you, as an UMNO person, as a BN person, I could have stood here and given you a conventional partisan spiel about why you need to... Mana lambang BN tu tak ada kan? Botol tu je ada, dekat-dekat. Why you need to support BN, why you need to pick us instead of the other guys. But look, I know you guys are smart enough. I know you guys are smart enough to vote BN. I'm being half facetious. I know you are smart enough to pick between two futures, between whatever future that's on offer, between what I believe, humbly, to be one that is, disulam janji-janji manis yang tak realistik berbanding dengan satu offering ataupun tawaran yang lebih realistik yang berasaskan idealisme. I know you're smart enough to acknowledge that idealism yang saya sebut ini. See, this is when you start being conspiracy theorist. I'm about to finish anyway, but I know you're smart enough. I know you're smart enough to know that idealism isn't the exclusive terrain of the opposition. I know that you will understand that it's always been a core part of Barisan Nasional's way of doing things. Often, not perfectly, kita tak sempurna, and sometimes we fall short of that idealism. But as much as I want you to call us out on it when we do, I'm asking that you consider the argument that despite our jagged edges, despite our sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, it is Barisan's idealism that continues to pave the way for a better Malaysia tomorrow. Okay lah, majority hall tepuk ke menang kita salah. But know this, on a serious note, this is bigger than the next GE, guys. This is bigger than the next general election. This is about long-term futures. This is about the long-term future of this country. I leave you with just one thing. Never forget the way you are today, skeptical, with that smirk on your face. Keep that. Remember that. Skeptical, critical, sharp. Hold us politicians accountable, because your first loyalty is to your country. Your first loyalty is always to your country. And then if you like, after you graduate, you can join UMNO. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada pihak penganjur, para hadirin. Yang baik semuanya datang dari Allah SWT, yang kurang adalah kelemahan saya sendiri. Sekian wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.